you understand how healing works? By understanding the process, we can not only heal ourselves, but understand why. Welcome to the Healing Power Hour with host Suzanne Hill. In our program, we will show you the healing modalities and approaches that you can use to heal yourself, no matter the illness or the symptoms. Now, here is your host, Suzanne Hill.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Healing Power Hour. Thanks so much for listening in. Today's episode is called The Why and How of Meditation, and I wanted to cover this topic because I know that there are so many of you out there who would love to learn how to truly meditate. What I found is that many of my patients try to meditate, and generally what they do is practice sitting quietly and make an effort to clear their mind for 10 to 20 minutes a day. But after a few times of attempting this type of sitting, patients often give up this practice, mostly because they're not getting enough out of their sitting to be inspired to continue. Now, I teach meditation classes in New York City about once a month because that's really as much as my schedule permits, but I do make an effort to hold these classes because I've developed what I think is a very effective strategy for teaching people rather quickly how to meditate, which then gets them excited to initiate and maintain their own practice at home. Over the past 2.5 years since I started our meditation class, we've developed an excellent group now that gets together on a monthly basis, and this includes people who thought they'd never learned how to meditate. When I was pondering who would be my guest to augment today's teaching, I, of course, thought right away to ask my dear friend Chongtul Rinpoche to be my guest, and he happily accepted the invitation, which I'm thrilled about. Chongtul Rinpoche most often is called either Chongtul or Rinpoche. For those of you who may not know, Rinpoche means precious one, and that is a title that is given specifically to certain lamas because not all monks are lamas, and it's also an honorific bestowed upon those who are thought to be reincarnated lamas. So Chongtul actually fulfills both of these definitions and is therefore indeed a Rinpoche, and Chongtul is a Tibetan lama from the Bön tradition. The Bön religion actually predates Tibetan Buddhism by a long stretch, and its founder was Tongpa Shenrab, whereas Gautama Buddha came much later to found Buddhism. The Bön have a whole different array of deities and as well their own path to enlightenment that differentiates them from Buddhists. So Chongtul Rinpoche will be joining us at about 25 past the hour to talk about meditation and the Bön way. He's a lovely man with a wonderful voice and a kind disposition, so I really do hope you stay tuned for that. Well, just to give you a little background on my own practice, my first experience of trying to meditate happened a long time ago when I was 17 years old. I was a freshman at Brown University and taking a class called Introduction to Eastern Religions. In that class, we studied a number of religions, including Zen Buddhism, and at one point during the semester, my professor had a Zen Buddhist monk come and lead a meditation session to a giant hall of about 300 of us students. The monk instructed us first in posture, and then some breath work, and lastly, we were to sit in absolute stillness and silence for 15 minutes. As much as I tried, this last part didn't go over so well because it took all of about 3 minutes for me to start laughing uncontrollably, and I couldn't stop laughing for the rest of the session, which seemed like the longest 12 minutes I'd ever experienced. Luckily, I was able to cover my mouth and not make any noise, but what I didn't realize at the time was that the quiet that surrounded me had put me in touch with all the tension I was carrying in my body, and at the time, the only way I knew how to discharge my tension in that moment was to start laughing. By the way, this happens to people sometimes, so if you're ever in a meditation class and someone near you starts to emote in some kind of way, whether it's laughing or crying or maybe even coughing, please try not to be annoyed. It's all part of the release process. But despite my fit of uncontrollable laughter that day, somehow I was extremely intrigued by meditation and bought a few books on how to do it, including Maharishi Mahesh Yogi's book on transcendental meditation. And so I began periodic attempts at trying to sit with my spine straight, do various kinds of breathing, trying to keep my mind empty, or even reciting a mantra in my mind, which is the way of transcendental meditation. And quite honestly, I spent a large part of those first 6 years worrying about, was I sitting straight enough? Was I breathing the right way? I would try not to think of my to-do list and try not to scratch an itch that, of course, only became noticeable once I was trying not to move or think of anything. And most of the time, I felt like I spent that 20 minutes chasing my tail. But for some reason, unbeknownst to me, I persisted. And then one day, at about my 6th year into this, I remember I wasn't doing this every day, maybe once or twice a week, but somewhere in that 6th year, I had a huge breakthrough. I was so frustrated, and I said to myself, this is ridiculous. You know how to do this. You can control your mind. For the next 10 minutes, you are not going to think of anything. And for some reason that day, I was able to do just that. And after a very brief period of time, my mind went absolutely still, and I went into an altered state. In that state, I felt completely suspended in time and space, and I could feel the vastness of the universe all at once in every direction. But it was a completely peaceful feeling and not frightening at all. I still remember that moment, and I'm not exactly sure how I got there, but I did get there. And the amazing thing is that I've never forgotten what it's felt like to be there. And that was the turning point in my meditation practice. As it will be for you, you only need to get there once, and then you will have something to build upon. By the time I got to acupuncture school many years later, I was meditating anywhere from 1 to 3 hours a day. When you meditate that much, you really learn a lot about meditation. Fast forward to more recent times, and about 2.5 years ago, I decided to start teaching my own class because I was sending patients all over town to learn meditation, and feedback on those classes was that they were pleasant enough, but that patients weren't necessarily learning how to meditate. So I designed a class intended to shortcut all the time I had spent going nowhere and get people straight to it, and that's what I wanted to share with you today. Just to get everyone on the same page, I want to give you an understanding of why we want to meditate. From my perspective, when we meditate, our goal is to get into an altered state of consciousness. It's not just about sitting quietly. And in that altered state of consciousness, several things happen. First of all, we're able to connect to our deepest essence. And by that, I mean we go way past our personality, which is like a mask. In fact, the word personality comes from the Latin word persona, which means mask. So our personality is like this mask that sits in front of or on top of our true essence, which is the divine spark within us. You could also call it the God force that we all carry. For those of you who don't believe in God or in divinity, you can just see it as your deepest essence. So the point of meditation is to connect to our deepest essence, which in the spiritual realm is what we consider to be our true self. And it is in this connection that we feel that feeling of ultimate calm, peace, happiness, and bliss. And this, of course, leads to improved health because then all of our body processes work better. When we connect to our divine essence, our energy, our auric field will automatically expand, and the frequency at which we vibrate will increase. It starts to go higher. How do I know this? Not by reading it in a book, but I can often hear people's pitches. Each of us vibrates at a certain pitch, and when our consciousness expands, our pitch actually increases. I can hear this often when someone's on the acupuncture table after the needles go in and they sit for a while. When I come back in after treatment, if they have come to a greater understanding or awareness of themselves while resting with the needles in, their pitch will be higher than when they first came in. This, by the way, is why people who get regular acupuncture treatments find it much easier to learn to meditate, because you're getting consistent practice and feeling what it feels like to have your aura expand and your frequency go higher. Now, my own personal belief, beyond this more energetic aspect of meditation, is that when we sit and alter our consciousness in such a way as to expand our energy, raise our frequency, and connect to our divine essence, we're making a positive contribution to the world. So for those of you who'd like to make a contribution, but you aren't in a financial position to do so, you can absolutely make one by sitting down and connecting to your true nature. Each sitting helps you, and it helps the world. Okay, so moving on. The first thing you want to understand about learning meditation is that the best way to learn how to meditate is that, so I'm sorry, somebody just IM'd me, that the best way to learn how to meditate is to attend a live class. It is extremely difficult to learn to meditate by reading a book. You have to experience it to know what you're doing. As well, it's also very difficult to learn to meditate in your own home by yourself, though it's certainly not impossible. And the reason why it's difficult is that part of what you're doing when you learn how to meditate is that you're raising your vibration. And when you're sitting in your own home, surrounded by your own things, all of which vibrate in sync with your own frequency, it can be considerably more difficult for you to lift yourself higher than your own frequency before you know what you're doing. Now, when I hold my classes, the class size ranges anywhere from 20 to 40 people, and I always make sure I have at least 4 advanced meditators in the room in addition to myself. The reason for this is that if you have 4 or 5 people who can get into an altered state sitting among everyone else, it's much easier to lift the vibration of the room. And the beginners will be held by the energy state that those advanced meditators are able to achieve in the room. And so as a beginner, it's much easier for you to raise your vibration with their help. It's similar to using training wheels when you're trying to learn how to ride a bike. The advanced meditators are your training wheels. Now, sometimes my advanced meditators can grumble because they wonder what benefit they are getting out of helping beginners. And I say to them, first of all, it is your dharma to help beginners learn how to meditate. And in this instance, I'm using the word dharma to mean one's duty, i.e., that which you do to help hold up the natural order of the universe. It's how you make a contribution to the world. And second of all, when you're an advanced meditator and you help hold the energy up in a beginner's class, it will strengthen your practice in ways that you won't understand until you do it. It's like doing 50 push-ups. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of energy to hold a room. But then when you go home to your own practice, or when you practice with other advanced practitioners, you'll find that you're able to attain new heights in your own practice. So there is a benefit that comes back to you. It's not an entirely selfless action. And by the way, this is why meditation classes taught by one instructor and a room full of first-time meditators isn't always the strongest experience for the beginner, because unless that instructor is a yogi or a lama whose job incorporates meditating 4 or 5 hours a day, they typically won't have the energy to hold the room all by themselves. So it may take a couple of classes, but once you feel the feeling of being in an altered state, even if you just touch upon that state for a fleeting moment, you then have the cellular memory within you to draw upon once you're in your own home, and that'll help accelerate your practice. Now, when I start a class, the first thing I remind everyone is that when we come together with the intention of connecting to our divine essence, we are in fact creating a temple. We're creating a sacred space. And in that sacred space, you do not want to bring in any negativity or judgment. Remember that negativity and judgment carry a lower frequency. So if you're thinking negative thoughts about yourself or anyone else in the room, it actually lowers the frequency of the room, making it harder for everyone. So once you remind yourself that you're creating sacred space and you want to keep negativity at bay, the first thing I suggest you do is at least one Qigong exercise. The basic one I give is to have people stand with their legs shoulder-width apart, arms hanging down by your side, and what you do is bend your knees slightly to relax your sacrum and low back, and then you slowly, ever so slowly, raise your arms, palm facing up, until you get them to shoulder height. And what you're imagining that you're doing is scooping up water. When you get your arms to shoulder height, you will then turn your hands over. So now your palms are facing downward, and you can feel the sensation of something pouring out. And you slowly, again, ever so slowly, lower your arms back down to your sides again. If you do this several times, it will still your mind. The point of doing Qigong is that it stills the mind while engaging the body in a physical practice. It's much harder to still the mind by just sitting if you haven't learned how to do it yet. So as a beginner, I strongly suggest that you spend a few minutes and do some Qigong. But remember, you have to do it very, very slowly. The next thing you want to do after you've stilled your mind with the Qigong is to do some type of intentional breathing exercise. I typically lead the class through guided breath work that focuses on the chakras, but this can be hard to do on your own. So what I recommend to beginners is to simply do at least 10 very deep breaths. And it goes like this. You inhale through your nose as deeply as you can. Then you hold that breath for as long as you can. And lastly, you exhale, pushing your breath out for as long as you can. And you do this at least 10 times. This gets all the old air out of your lungs. Many people are shallow breathers, so they can have some stale air present in their lungs. But when you breathe deeply, like the way I just described, it's like opening the windows in your house on a spring day. And listen, there's all kinds of sophisticated breathing techniques you can get into. But the reason I don't do that is because when people get caught up in the details, like what's the count, what's the order, and so forth, they tend to get lost. So I just say, take 10 really deep breaths. Trust me, you'll get great results if you do it. Okay, so now after you do some kind of breath work, then you can sit down in a comfortable position, whether it's on the floor or on a chair. It doesn't matter. If you sit on a chair, sit at the front of the chair because this will keep your spine straight. For beginners, it's actually easier to sit in a chair because to sit in lotus, half lotus, or full lotus and keep your spine straight takes a lot of effort. You have to be really strong. Now, when I teach the meditation part, I teach chanting as part of my meditation classes because I found it nearly impossible to teach beginners how to meditate without the chanting. But even for advanced meditators, chanting will intensify and amplify your meditative experience. So what does the chanting do? Well, remember that your body is approximately 70% water. And when you chant, it creates a vibration that harmonizes the water molecules. So when you harmonize the water molecules within your body, you'll then be harmonizing the majority of the energy in your body, and you will feel harmonized as a result. The best way for beginners to learn how to chant is just to start with a simple Om. You don't really need an advanced involved mantra. You can save that for later. When you do your Oms, you want to think of it in thirds. The first third is an Ah. The second third is an O. And the last third is an So it sounds like this. Om. If you do your Oms in this way, you'll hit at least 3 different parts of your body with a vibration and open up a greater number of energetic pathways. And remember that when you chant, you're not singing softly. Your intention is to create a powerful vibration in your body. A lot of times when I drop in on a meditation class, I hear people singing softly like they're in church, and it might sound pretty, but it's not going to get you the intended result. I had a patient come to one of my meditation classes and so excited because she'd been chanting for years. But after coming to class, she came to me and said, I'm so upset. All these years I thought I was chanting, and I realize now that I was actually singing. And after tonight, I feel like I've chanted for the first time in my life, and it's very different. So do know that. Now, when you first start chanting, it's going to come mostly from your throat, but after a while, it does drop down, and you'll feel a majority of your chant actually emanating from your chest. And know that chanting is a physical practice. In the beginning, you're going to get tired. I tell the beginners in my class to drop out as they need and start again once they've caught their wind again. But you can start out by chanting 3 minutes of an Om. That's a great start. And after you do those 3 minutes of chanting, then you can sit for 3 minutes of silence. The great thing about chanting with a group, however, is that a tremendous vibration gets created, and your body will reap the benefit of not only your own chanting, but the chanting of everyone else in the room, and it's very beautiful sometimes. When you hit certain vibrations as a group, even individually, you're going to hear harmonic overtones, and they will sound like high humming. Now, this 3 minutes of silence after the Qigong, the breath work, and the chanting is going to be a relatively easy 3 minutes to sit through. Because once you finish chanting, you can feel the vibration resonating throughout your body. Then you will want to sit, and it will be easy for you to do so without fidgeting. When you get to the point where your mind starts to wander, what you're going to want to do is scan your body for anywhere that's tight or still carries tension and relax that area. Because only when your body is completely relaxed will you be able to enter into an altered state of consciousness. And this will happen by itself. You can't will yourself to get there. But eventually you'll go to chanting for 5 minutes and sitting for 5 minutes, chanting for 10 minutes, sitting for 15 minutes, and so on. T.S. Eliot, one of my all-time favorite poets, described it precisely in his poem East Coker, which is one of the 4 quartets. And he wrote, "We must be still and still moving into another intensity." I think that's what meditation is like. By the way, for people who have troublesome dreams that are either overactive, scary, or negative in some kind of way, regular meditation will change the quality of your dreams and turn your dream time into something you start to look forward to every night. For those of you who can't remember your dreams, you may start to remember them once you begin to meditate regularly. So that ends my part of the show, and we're going to go to break now. When we return, I'll be speaking with Chongtul Rinpoche, who is a Tibetan Lama from the Bon tradition, and he's going to share with us his thoughts and experiences on meditation as well as the Bon way. Please stay tuned, everyone. We'll be back. Hi, everybody. This is Suzanne Hill. I'm here with Chongtul Rinpoche of the Tibetan Bon religion. He's in Delhi right now. I'll give you a little background on how I met Chongtul. When I was earlier in my career, I studied energy and healing with Rosalind Breuer, who is a famous healer, one of the most powerful healers I've ever met. And she was made, or I don't know how they call it, they named her as the oracle for the Bon people because she was highly clairvoyant and she was able to channel in an old teacher of the Bon people called Master Chang. Now, at that time, I didn't really understand anything about this, but I learned about the Bon religion through her because she was very supportive of it, and I actually sponsored a Tibetan orphan and of the Bon. And many, many, many years later, when I met Chongtul, I found out that he was the one who was responsible for leading, and he was responsible for these Bon orphans. And so when we met, it was very, as they say in Tibetan, a very auspicious meeting. Now, I think they're still having problems getting him on.
Hey, I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Chongtul, thank you. So let's try to get you talking before you drop off again.
Drop off.
So I wanted to start off, since today's topic is on meditation, I know you went into the monastery quite early at the age of 7. In your experience, when did they start teaching you how to meditate there?
Hi, this is Chongtul. So I'm actually, my network is a little weak. Right now I'm in Delhi, and I'm happy to be back to here and trying to go back to my monastery in the next 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, when I was actually 7, I joined in the monastery, which is the Northern Monastery in India. It is the head monastery of the Tibetan Bon. After the Cultural Revolution, all the lamas escaped to India. Then they rebuilt the Menri Monastery, which is the principal monastery of the Bon. So in that monastery, even we are very, very poor conditions. So my parents and one of my very special Tibetan master, very good friend of my parents, and they told me that if you try to little bit meditation, it can clear your mind and it can be makes your all the decision and all the things, whatever you have a plan, makes very clear and very stable and more powerful. That was always the teasing, and sometimes it looks like a very serious, sometimes it looks like a teasing, but they're trying to always me to join in the monastery. But during when I was 7, then I thought, okay, my parents are trying to go to the winter business. Then they say, okay, 3 months, you can stay in the monastery. It's a really nice place. Then I just stay in the monastery. They have about 17 children, and all are coming from the different places. And I was from our town. It was really nice, 3 months, stay with all the children. And it is kind of the small hostel, but it is the town, or it is the Kamba in the monastery area. So during the 3 months, I can have in the daytime go to the English school and study English and study about how to speak Hindi language and English language. But on the side, in the morning and in the evening, they always one lamas come and they try to tell us the history of our founder of the Bon, Tambashara, and the different kind of the deities of the Bon. And they always talk about the very nice history and to make it interesting into meditation. Then also in the like a 1 hour talking in the morning and 1 hour talking in the evening, but just simply live experience talking. But sometimes in between, they put 3 minutes, just sit a silence and do meditation. So even that time, I don't know the meditation. In the Tibetan, we call the Gom Jap. And they always says Gom Jap. Okay, that means now we understood at that time, Gom Jap means stay in the silence and close the eyes and cross the leg and put your hand and palm into the leg. So we did that always that. Then somehow that 3 months passed very fast. And during the 3 months, we have a lot of experience about that. Then when my parents come after 3 months, we know about the meditation means close the eyes and cross the leg and keep silence and watch in your mind. So that we did for 3 months. Then I had a kind of experience. Then I explained to my mom and parents, Papa, then they were so happy. Then they always talk about that lama that was really 3 months was very excellent for my experience. And then after that, they said, do you want to join to the monastery? Is it a good life? I says, yes, it is very nice. And it's because I think one is the meditation and one is there's so many different people. Children are coming from the different country and the different places. So we enjoy, and even we don't know each other. We have become a very good friend. Then we are doing the same meditation and eating together, playing together. It was really good experience to become a meditator. That was my first during the
as your
childhood,
first
yes.
experience. So when do you start learning in the Bon way? Do they teach chanting and meditation together, or is it separate? Or how?
Yes, normally for the children, we first try to teach the little chanting and the little prayer things, not so deep meditation, very simple meditation that will tell, okay, just sit down and close the eye and look into your mind. That is the simplest for the children. But mostly we spend little time on the how to chant and how to invoking our deities and what is the mantra for the, in case if you have a exam, during the examination, you need a successful of your exam and the paper. So they will tell, okay, this mantra will be very helpful for you to passing your examination because you have nervous, because you have a little forgetting, and those mantra can help you not forgetting and stays your mind very stable. Then also that mantra can help you losing your nervous. So everything be success, then it helps so much for your examination, because as the children, we are in the school and examination is the highest point of our daily year, whole year, 360 days, and most days, let's say 355 days, we are playing, and only there's the 3 days is the examination. That is the biggest day for us. So then they says, okay, this mantra can help you. We mostly study chanting and praying, then meditation step by step. Normally, after 2 years, then we go a little bit on the meditation.
And how do they take you deeper into your practice of meditation?
Meditation, we always say, meditation is the one point, but to make a stronger, deeper, stable meditation, we have to study on what is the compassion, what is the love, and in the Bon, we call the 9 preliminary teaching. So 9 preliminary study that we need very much, each of them details, and each of them how to chant, and each of them how to meditate on that. And that part is the really to make a deep meditation, how to build yourself. And once you practice that 9 preliminary practice, that takes each of them, normally we have each of them 100,000, we need to recite the mantra. And also there's the 100,000 of the prostration. So all of those 900,000, once you're done, then you have something very strong faith, or you have something experience from your own without taking from the other people. Other people, other teachers, they just explain you, but through your own experience, you get a real deepest meditation on the God. Understanding, yes.
Mm-hmm. Wow. When did, in your own, if you don't mind sharing, in your own practice, when do you feel like you really understood what it meant to meditate?
Yeah, that is the little quiet, like an experience or like an interesting question. Yes, I joined in the 7th, then 8, 9, let's say like 5 years. I was actually looks like a kid, but I like really for the rituals. I was playing with the rituals. I was playing with the drums. Even I have a tin cut it, and those tin I'm using as the drum. So I just hold on the sky, then beating the tin, cutting tin. And those things I really want on the rituals. I mostly in my beginning 5 years, I was very deep on the rituals, and I really like it. Then somehow through the rituals I found, I don't remember the exact month or year, but somehow then I understood there is something that meditation is the point. Meditation is the key, that when your mind is so not stable, when your mind is so much jumping, that meditation. Sometimes people have so much different kind of the life. They have a stress, they have so much things going on in their life, and they cannot handle. Then meditation, simply meditation, just looking into, then let them go. Whatever struggling into your mind, don't hold it. Just have experience whatever's coming and let them go. Passing, let come in, don't hold it, little experience, and let them go. If you are deep thinking, then it holds, then it brings you a lot of stress. So when you think about and you find that is the cause of the suffering, then you let them go, it will go very smoothly, softly. Once it goes softly and smoothly out of your body, out of your life experience, out of your mind, then your mind is so strong. How to cleanse, how to let that go out from your mind, that is the meditation course. How to look into your mind, how to look to yourself. That is the simple, basic meditation.
And that's why in the spiritual tradition you actually have to learn the philosophy to learn about attachment and the mind.
Yes, we need a really, sometimes some point, meditation looks like a key, but how to open the key to the door, how to put into, how to use it, that is the so many steps. In the beginning, we have a 9 preliminary practice. Then after the 9 preliminary practice, then we have an introduction about your mind. That takes 1 week. Then after then also in the philosophy, we have a sutra teaching and tantric teaching, and the highest, which is the Dzogchen teaching. And that is sometimes we call the 9 ways of the Bon. Sometimes we call the 3 sutra and tantric and the Dzogchen. Most in the Bon we call the 9 ways of the Bon. That is the whole entire of the Bon philosophy in the 9 ways of the Bon. So once you study if you really want the highest level of the meditation, we always try to learn the 9 ways of the Bon. That 9 preliminary teaching and 9 ways of the Bon is the large, that you are in the house, then in the house there's the bed, there's the table, there's the kitchen, there's the dining hall, there's the bathroom. How you can separate, how you can understand well without any mixing, that is the knowledge about the 9 ways of the Bon.
Now, I know you once told me that at Menri Monastery in India that people can sometimes come and visit. Is that still true?
Still, it is coming. This time I have many people, they want to go to monastery. Actually, I live in New York since like now 4 years, and I'm trying to build a temple over there. But I'm always trying to my best way to all the Western students, trying to, because they are very interesting on the Tibetan Buddhist or Tibetan Bon or Tibetan meditation or Tibetan mindfulness or Tibetan the self natural mind or the self-liberation. Sometimes in the Western world, it is very difficult to introduce. It is only through my word, because they don't see so many Tibetan culture.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm telling them, sometimes you can learn something from me, but sometimes if you go to Tibetan culture and if you mix with the Tibetan culture, that can help a lot. Like myself, when I stay in India and with the Tibetan family, Tibetan group, Tibetan monastery monks, my English is not growing. I'm trying to study English, I'm trying to speak English, but it is very hard when you are in your Tibetan society. The best way, you have to mix into the American or English people who speak mother tongue as the English. Then I can catch very easy. I can learn very fast. Same as if they really interesting on the Tibetan culture, best and more quicker, more understandable, more deeper, more stable grounding, they better go to the Tibetan society and Tibetan lamas or Tibetan peoples. They mix into the Tibetan culture, Tibetan lamas, then they can understand very faster and ground. From that is the very different. One is from my side, I'm explaining and trying to put into their mind. But one is their own self, visited, and they're seen, and from their own experiences, totally different. So this time also I'm waiting. Tomorrow we are having 12 people, students who have been many years participating in my teaching, and they want to go to see our Bon and supporting for the Bon. So I'm waiting them. And still we have many, many Westerners coming, and they are enjoying, they really like, and it is, Delhi is a very hot place and it's very large, but our monastery is the mountain and the northern, and it is the very nice foothill of the Himalaya. It is really nice, clean, and good to be at the better place for the meditation.
Now, when people go to Menri Monastery to advance their meditation practice and the knowledge of the Bon, how often, what's the schedule? How often will they be meditating and praying and chanting?
That
is it too
right.
much for them?
Sometimes, when groups are trying to go to with me, then I'm always trying to make a simple but little deeper. So I'm saying, okay, in the morning schedule, in the morning, there's the one in the temple, monks are chanting. And one other side, since I have so many 300 children coming from the different places, looks like an orphanage and a semi-orphanage, born children living in the hostel, and the 300 children are also singing, chanting.
Mm-hmm.
So those people who are the Westerns, they can join either in the monastery with the monks, or maybe in the children's for in the morning just 1 hour. Even they cannot chant, they just join with the children's. Mm-hmm. Children are chanting so well, they can chant, they can join and meditate. Then during the day, they can a little relax after the breakfast in the guest house. We have a guest house in the monastery. They can stay in the monastery. Then guest house will be managing all the breakfast rooms. Then around 10 to 11 in the morning, sometimes we manage the one teaching course for them. If they are planning for 1 week, we can try to, within the week, what we need to teach them, what we need to explain them, what we can give as much as our Bon introduction or Tibetan introduction, or Tibetan, what is the difference of the Bon and the Buddhist. So those we can introduction for them. Then also we have His Holiness and some other lamas. We can also introduce them. They can a little spend. If they have a special question, they can ask for the lamas and the teachers. They can explain also. Then in the evening, also I am little giving a meditation with us, some lamas, some monks are there. Then we are doing a special with the explanation and simple meditation for within the explanation and the meditation total. It looks like a 1.5 hours we are doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds like
That
a
is
great experience.
that
Now,
is the year really helpful for the all the even sometimes people are exciting and they are really new in the Tibetan culture. Sometimes they just met me in New York and they can come for there have been only one teaching, like a weekend teaching workshop.
mm-hmm.
Maybe they spend only like a 1 day or 2 day with me. Only during the teaching, I'm talking, they're listening, and we don't have so much time to share what is the her and what is his thought and what is my thought. We don't have a time. But next time they're so excited. Oh, Rinpoche, you are trying to take a group to a monastery. I want to join with them. Even those people, they don't know so much, but they are very, very interesting on Tibetan. And I'm always trying to them, okay, try to come. And this is the first time that can be very helpful. Then, some people, they're coming again. Then next time, third time, they can go by self and they enjoy. Some students, really, they just go and stay 1 or 2 months. It is very cheap in the monastery guest house. They have a 3 times food and a room and a shower, everything like $7 per day.
Yeah, that's a cheap experience.
Yeah, that is the answer. Some really students, they want to learn so much, and in the Western country, it's so expensive. They can go to monastery, then stay for 2-3 months just there, and we will introduce the one special monk who can speak good English and enough English. Then also, of course, they have very knowledge about Tibetan-born meditation. They can help, and it is very helpful.
Now, Chongtul, can you, because a lot of listeners don't know about the bun, can you give a brief explanation about how the bun is different from Tibetan Buddhism? Because a lot of people don't know about that.
Yes.
I know that's not a brief answer, but see what you can do.
It is. So, yes, actually, historical Bon is, when you just look outside for the Lama style and for the monk style, Bon and Buddhists are very similar nowadays. But if you go back to the historical background, that Bon is founded by the previous Buddha, who is the previous life of the Buddha Shakyamuni, Buddhist Buddha. So, Tonpa Shenrab, we believe he was born in the Zhangzhung. Zhangzhung is nowadays, there's no more existing, but in the past time, Zhangzhung is the Tajikistan, Persia, Afghanistan, those area where the Zhangzhung country. Then also Zhangzhung part is some of the India and some of the Nepal, some of the Tibet, and some of the China. All over the Xiangxun is small pieces, but Xiangxun is since 7th century. Xiangxun is already broke and there's no more existence. Actually, main Xiangxun was occupied by some other countries. Then also Xiangxun mostly become a part of the Tibet. And Tompa Shenrab was born in Zhangzhung. Tompa Shenrab is the very similar style and everything like a Buddha. Right now, it's very difficult to explain. And nowadays, when we say Buddha means that everyone thinking that Buddha Shakyamuni born in India. Mm-hmm. But Buddha Tompa Shenrab is similar design, and when you see the Tompa Shenrab, it's very similar. Mm-hmm. And Tompa Shenrab is, until now, we call 18,000 years old. And Buddha Shakyamuni is 2,300 years old.
So that's a very big difference. Yeah.
Very, very big difference. But many scholars and many professors, they don't believe on the 18,000 years old of the Bon. But they're still checking. It's a result of all the professors and the scholars. They need the evidence. And through the evidence, nowadays, last 50 years, they said Bon is only 1,000 years. And during the 50 years, they found so many evidence in the Himalayan mountain, Dunhuang in China, and the Afghanistan area, and the Pakistan border. So now they are saying, and especially in the Mount Kailash area, now they are saying they are all back now about 4,000.
Right, so it is older.
So it is older, yes.
It is older. So we have to close soon, but I want you to talk about Bon Shenling and what you're trying to do with that organization, because you are trying to build a Bon temple here in the New York City area.
Yes, okay. So I moved to New York. I'm trying to build a very good study center for all the Western students. Of course, Tibetan who grow in America, they also need to come. And right now I'm renting all the time big hotels and a big retreat place, and it's getting more expensive. So in the future, my plan is to have a Bon Shenling is my organization, non-charitable organization in America. And we are trying to build a temple in the upstate New York. And that is providing a study center for anyone who wants. And at Bon Shenling, always we are trying to give a teaching that I'm very, very interested on the soul. Soul in the Western soul and the Tibetan soul has a very different meaning.
Okay.
And even in the Tibetan soul, Tibetan has a Bon and Tibetan has a Buddhist. Tibetan Buddhists, many lamas, they are always saying, in the Tibetan Buddhists, they have sometimes in the rituals, they talk about the soul, but they don't have a deep details.
Understanding.
Wild details. And they're always saying soul means in the Tibetan Buddhists, they are coming from the source of the Tibetan Bon. We need to find out the details of the Tibetan soul. Root is from the Bon. They always talk about the coming back.
So I'm going to have to cut you off now, Chongtul. I'm so sorry, but please, this
Yes.
is Chongtul Rinpoche, and he's from the Bon people, and his website is Shenling. What is your website exactly?
Bon Shenling, BONSHENLING.org.
And you can look for his teachings there because he teaches very much around the New York State, Connecticut area. Thank you, Chongtul, for being on the show. Thank you, listeners, for listening. As always, please make use of the knowledge you have learned today, and much love to you all. Thanks, Chongtul.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us this week. Please join Suzanne Hill for another edition of the Healing Power Hour next Wednesday at 11 a.m. in the West, 2 p.m. in the East on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel. Have a healthy week.